Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we are cracking open the U.S. Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication 4.
Right.
MCDP 4.
MCDP 4.
For short.
Yeah.
Focusing on logistics. And we'll be talking about unpacking all the key topics, recurring themes.
Yep.
Just trying to
give you a solid understanding.
Yeah, give you a solid understanding
of this really crucial doctrine.
Yeah,
this doctrine is like really lays out the Marine Corps philosophy on military logistics.
Okay.
And tries to give you a framework for understanding how logistics is so important in military operations.
So let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
What exactly does logistics mean in the military context?
That's a great question.
And why does it seem like the Marine Corps is placing so much emphasis on it in this latest publication?
I think sometimes it gets simplified down to beans, bullets, and bandages.
Right.
But MCDP-4 actually defines it as all the activities related to procuring, transporting, and maintaining military material facilities and personnel.
Okay. So it's like
it's pretty broad.
The bridge that connects.
It really emphasizes that logistics is the bridge that connects a nation's economy to its warfighting forces, converting those resources into actual combat power.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's like the unsung hero ensuring that everything runs smoothly behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So how does MCDP-4 really drive this point home?
Yeah. Well, General Berger, he states in the foreword, logistics is the pacing function. And essentially he's saying logistics is the crucial element for success in any military operation. And to illustrate this, they dive into some historical examples. So the Incheon landing in 1950, pivotal moment in the Korean War, capturing Seoul, was obviously a strategic victory. But it also really crippled North Korea's logistics infrastructure. That blow really turned the tide of the war.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a game changer.
Big time.
That really highlights how crucial logistics is to a successful campaign.
Absolutely.
And MCDP-4 also takes us on a journey through the evolution of logistics. How has it changed over time?
Well, the Industrial Revolution was a huge turning point because you had mass production, you had advanced weaponry, you had rapid transportation, so it really changed the scale of warfare. What once was important now became essential.
And then with the rise of the information age, I imagine the need for responsiveness just exploded.
Absolutely. The document really stresses that with advanced information systems and technology, we need even faster, more responsive sustainment than ever before. We're talking real-time data, sophisticated technology, a whole new level of complexity.
Okay, so to adapt to this, MCDP-4 puts forward this concept of hybrid logistics.
That's right.
Hybrid logistics. Tell me more about this.
It's all about blending old, new, and emerging technologies to create a really flexible system. And they use an anecdote about Bill's Garage.
Bill's Garage? What is that?
It sounds mundane, right?
Yeah.
But imagine this small manufacturing business in Idaho, seemingly insignificant, but producing a crucial component for a major weapons platform.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
The point is that in today's globally connected world, even something as small as Bill's Garage can become a vulnerability, a target for adversaries. So we need to be adaptable and resilient in our logistics planning. We have to anticipate disruptions, have backup plans, and be able to pivot on a dime.
I like that pivot on a dime.
Yeah.
It sounds like MCDP-4 spends a lot of time talking about logistics in what they call a contested environment.
Yeah.
And I'd love to...
That's a crucial point.
Yeah, I'd love to get your take on that.
I think the document underscores that the modern battle space is incredibly complex. It's multi-domain, meaning we're operating on land, sea airspace, and cyberspace all at once.
Wow.
And it's global in scope. With potential conflicts arising anywhere in the world.
And with adversaries, potentially targeting our logistics capabilities.
Yeah, that's right.
I can see where this is going.
Logistics capabilities become high-value targets. If you can disrupt an enemy's logistics, you gain a massive advantage. Think about it. No fuel, no food, no ammunition. Their fighting force grinds to a halt.
A strategic nightmare.
Right.
So how does MCDP4 advise us to navigate this increasingly complex environment?
The document emphasizes designing a system that can withstand attacks and disruptions. We need a logistics system that's resilient, flexible, and adaptable, ready for anything. And that's where the concept of the competition continuum model comes into play. This model helps us visualize how competition with adversaries unfolds and how logistics plays a role across that continuum.
Let's break that down.
What
exactly does this model look like?
The competition continuum model is essentially a spectrum. On one end, you have cooperation, where nations are working together towards shared goals. As you move across the spectrum, you encounter competition, where nations are vying for influence and advantage. And finally, at the far end, you have conflict, where outright warfare occurs.
So logistics is involved in all three phases, not just during active conflict.
That's right. And MCDP4 really emphasizes that our logistics planning needs to be adaptable to each phase. So in cooperation, we might be focused on joint logistics efforts with partner nations. In competition, we might be pre-positioning supplies and building resilient distribution networks to deter adversaries and ensure our readiness. And then in conflict, our focus shifts to sustaining combat operations and maintaining combat power.
So it sounds like having a solid grasp of that competition continuum model is key.
It's a good model to think about.
To be able to adapt and make those crucial logistics decisions.
Absolutely.
So where does logistics fit in?
So MCDP4 clearly positions logistics as one of the 7 Marine Corps warfighting functions, alongside command and control, intelligence, fires maneuver, force protection, and information.
So how does it connect and interact?
Well, it's not a standalone function. It's interwoven with everything else the Marines do. So, for example, effective command and control depends on having the right personnel and material in the right place at the right time to execute orders. And that's where logistics comes in. It ensures commanders have the resources they need to make informed decisions and direct their forces effectively.
And what about intelligence? How do those two functions connect?
Logistics units are often operating right in the thick of things. Gathering valuable real-time intelligence on enemy movements, terrain, and logistical challenges. So they have a front row seat to the action and can feed that information back up to support overall intelligence gathering and analysis.
So logistics is providing vital intel on the ground.
That's right. And likely relying on intelligence to guide its own planning and execution.
It's a two-way street.
That's right.
What about the more kinetic functions, like fires and maneuver?
Fires and maneuver are incredibly logistically intensive. Think about the sheer volume of fuel needed for vehicles, ammunition for weapon systems, engineering support to clear routes, build fortifications. Logistics is the lifeblood of offensive and defensive operations.
MCDP4 highlights this integrated nature of warfighting functions. Through an example.
They talk about Major General Oliver P. Smith's actions at the Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War. Faced with overwhelming Chinese forces, Smith made a series of critical decisions informed by his deep understanding of logistics that enabled the Marines to successfully break out. It wasn't just about brute force. It was about skillfully integrating logistics with the other warfighting functions to achieve a tactical victory under extremely challenging circumstances.
It's a powerful example of how logistics can be the deciding factor.
It really is.
Between success and failure in a critical operation.
For sure.
Now, MCDP4 goes on to lay out 4 key principles of logistics.
They do.
That seem to underpin.
These are like the bedrock of the Marine Corps approach to logistics.
Can you unpack those first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we got simplicity.
Okay.
Flexibility.
Okay.
Attainability. And sustainability.
Let's break those down one by one.
Let's do it.
Starting with simplicity.
All right.
What does that mean?
So simplicity is about streamlining processes and making things clear and efficient.
Okay.
Think about the logistical juggernaut that is Amazon.
Okay.
They eliminate unnecessary complexity and optimize for speed and clarity.
Okay.
That's the kind of thinking we need to apply to military logistics.
So cutting through the red tape.
That's right.
And finding the most efficient way to get the job done.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about flexibility?
Well, flexibility is about being able to adapt to changing circumstances.
Okay.
We need to have multiple options and avoid being tied to a single plan that could easily become vulnerable in a dynamic environment.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's right.
As they say.
Yeah.
What about attainability?
Attainability is all about making sure you have the resources and capabilities to carry out your mission.
Okay.
It's about being realistic and not setting yourself up for failure from the start.
So no pie in the sky, planning an honest assessment of what is actually achievable.
Right.
And lastly, we have sustainability.
Okay.
I imagine that's more than just environmental sustainability in this context.
You are right.
Yeah.
In military logistics, sustainability is about being able to maintain the necessary level of support over extended periods.
Even in challenging environments.
Okay.
It's about pacing yourself for the long haul rather than sprinting towards a quick finish.
So how do the Marines approach sustainability in their logistics planning?
Well, MCDP 4 talks about finding the right balance between self-sufficiency, where a unit can sustain itself for a period of time, and dependency, where it relies on external support.
So knowing when to live off the land and when to call in the cavalry.
Exactly.
So we've covered those four key principles that guide the Marine Corps approach to logistics.
Yeah.
Simplicity, flexibility, attainability, and sustainability. Now, how does MCDP 4?
So they outline 4 essential actions. Sourcing, distribution, sustainment, and disposition.
Think of it like a cycle.
It's like a cycle where resources are acquired, moved, utilized,
and then either reused, recycled, or disposed of responsibly.
Okay, let's dive into those actions.
Let's do it.
One by one, starting with sourcing.
All right.
What exactly is involved?
So sourcing is all about obtaining the goods and services the force needs. And this could involve procurement, contracting, manufacturing, even in certain circumstances, foraging or capturing resources from the enemy.
Okay, so it's not just about...
Well, that's right. It's not just...
ordering supplies.
About ordering supplies from a catalog.
From a catalog.
Especially in a contested environment. You might need to think outside the box and find unconventional ways to source the things you need.
Right, and the document.
And the document highlights some exciting new possibilities in this area. They discuss the potential of factory to the frontline concepts, leveraging technologies like forward deployed additive manufacturing. Imagine being able to 3D print spare parts right there on the battlefield. That could revolutionize how we sustain forces in remote and challenging environments.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
It does.
A little bit.
But also incredibly practical.
Yeah. It's getting there. It's getting there.
So once those resources are sourced, we move on to distribution, right?
Right. So, distribution is about...
What are the key concepts there?
Getting those resources where they need to be. And MCDP 4 emphasizes the importance of moving from vulnerable supply chains to resilient supply webs.
Okay. I've heard that phrase before.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference?
Think of a traditional supply chain. Like a single road. It's efficient. But if that road gets blocked or damaged, the whole system grinds to a halt. A supply web, on the other hand, is like a network of roads. If one route is disrupted, you have multiple alternative paths to keep things flowing.
So it's about building redundancies into the system. Creating multiple options to make it more resilient.
Absolutely.
And MCDP 4 also discusses this concept of distribution nodes.
They do.
What are those?
Those are key locations where personnel and material are stored, reconfigured, or staged for onward movement.
So think about forward operating bases.
That's right.
Yeah, sea bases.
Or even strategically placed caches.
Absolutely.
They're like the hubs
of the logistics
network. And, of course, you need various transportation assets.
Transportation assets are crucial.
Yeah. What the document calls platforms. To move all this stuff.
Right. We're talking trucks.
That's right.
Aircraft, ships, and increasingly unmanned systems like drones.
You got it.
And MCDP4 highlights.
The MCDP4 highlights the need for constant innovation in this area.
Okay.
We need platforms that are faster, more resilient, and can operate in challenging environments. So we've sourced the material, distributed it to the right locations. Now let's talk about sustainment.
Okay.
How does MCDP4 address that crucial piece of the puzzle?
Sustainment is all about keeping the force going. Making sure they have the supplies, the maintenance, and the support services they need to operate effectively.
I imagine that encompasses more than just physical stuff.
You're right. It also involves maintaining morale. Keeping the troops fed. Rested. And feeling supported. Goes a long way in ensuring a force can endure and achieve its objectives.
A well-sustained force is a force that can win.
That's right.
And finally, we come to disposition.
The
last action in this logistics cycle. What's the focus there?
Disposition is all about responsible resource management. It's about asking the question, how do we consume, return, or dispose of material in a way that's efficient and minimizes waste?
So it's about closing the loop on the logistics process. Making sure we're using our resources wisely and sustainably.
Absolutely.
Now, MCDP4.
And MCDP4 dives into this concept of the logistics enterprise.
What does that mean?
So it's not...
is it like a giant logistics company?
A company, a rather a massive collaborative effort. They use logistics enterprise to describe how Marine Corps logistics operates within a larger interconnected system, a network of providers that spans all branches of the military combatant commands and even private industry.
That's a lot of moving parts.
It is.
Why is this level of collaboration so critical?
Well, in today's complex and contested global environment, it's simply impossible for any one service or organization to go it alone. We need to be able to leverage the strengths of all these different players to create a truly robust and resilient logistics system.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Are there any specific partnerships highlighted in MCDP4 as being particularly important?
They repeatedly emphasize the importance of our allies and partners. They can be real force multipliers, providing access to forward-basing local sourcing...
transportation support.
So it's about building those relationships and working together.
That's right.
To create a truly global logistics network.
A truly global logistics network.
And MCDP4 takes this concept further by diving into logistics at each level of warfare, tactical, operational, and strategic.
Tactical, operational, and strategic.
Can you walk us through those different levels and how logistics plays a role in each?
Sure. So tactical logistics is what's happening at the unit level. Keeping platoons and companies supplied and equipped. Think about unit level maintenance, medical support. The day-to-day nuts and bolts of keeping a fighting force in the field.
Operational logistics would be the next level up.
That's right. This is where we start talking about theater-level distribution networks, regional contract support.
The systems and processes that support large-scale operations. It's about coordinating logistics across a wider geographical area.
And lastly, strategic logistics.
Strategic logistics is the big picture. It's national level stuff. Acquisition and procurement. Infrastructure management. Setting the stage for global operations. It's about making sure the entire military has the resources and infrastructure it needs to project power anywhere in the world.
So MCDP4 really emphasizes a holistic...
I think that's a fair assessment.
An interconnected approach to logistics.
It really stresses that it's not just...
It's not just about what's happening at the unit level.
About what's happening at the unit level.
But about how all these different levels work together.
What about how all these different levels work together?
To support the overall mission.
To support the overall mission.
That's a fair assessment.
I think so.
Now, I understand MCDP4 closes this chapter with a scenario that highlights.
They do.
Yeah.
How technology is transforming the logistics landscape.
Can you tell us about that?
It's called the Welcome to the Theater scenario.
Okay.
And it really paints a picture of a future where logistics information systems are incredibly sophisticated, providing real-time visibility and even automated support.
Okay, so that ties back to that idea of hybrid logistics we discussed earlier.
It really does.
Blending the best of human expertise with cutting-edge technology to create.
It's amazing how much
a truly adaptable system.
Technology has transformed this landscape.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. But there's so much more to unpack in MCDP4.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you ready to keep digging?
I'm ready when you are.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
Understanding what logistics means in a military context, how it's evolved.
Yeah.
And its critical role as a warfighting function.
Right.
But MCDP4 doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't.
It also digs into the human element.
Digs into the human element.
It digs into the human element.
And how we prepare.
And how we prepare for those critical operations.
Right, for those critical operations.
Where do we even begin with that?
Well, MCDP4 really emphasizes the human element, reminding us that even with the most advanced technology, logistics ultimately relies on people.
Okay.
Chapter 4 focuses on logistics preparation.
Right.
And right away, it highlights the critical traits of an effective marine logistician.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Right.
What makes a Marine excel?
Well, the document emphasizes competence initiative, problem-solving skill, and that trademark Marine Corps can-do attitude.
I could see how those qualities would be.
Yeah, these traits are essential in a fast-paced, often unpredictable.
Valuable in a field that demands quick thinking and adaptability.
Right.
But it's not just about individual skills, is it? There's a strong emphasis on teamwork and collaboration as well.
There is.
You hit the nail on the head.
The document underscores the need for building trust and understanding between supporting and supported units.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about breaking down those silos and fostering a shared sense of mission, recognizing that everyone plays a role in the bigger picture.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the logisticians doing their jobs in isolation.
It's not about them working in a vacuum.
But it's about seamless integration with the units they're supporting.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of supporting, MCDP4 also touches on the concept of talent management within the logistics field.
It really is important to...
Why is that so important?
Recognize and utilize the unique skills and interests of Marines to build a truly effective logistics force.
So it's not just about filling billets.
Yeah, it's not just about filling billets.
It's about finding the right people.
It's about matching the right people to the right roles. And they actually provide a great example to illustrate this point. They tell the story of a Lieutenant Colonel Davidson who understands that talent management is more than just putting warm bodies in seats.
Right.
He actively seeks out Marines who have a genuine passion for aviation. Identifying
individuals with unique skills and interests. There's a Corporal Hayes who builds drones in his spare time. A Lance Corporal Mayberry obsessed with model airplane engines. And even a Staff Sergeant Sorensen who happens to be a licensed pilot.
I see where this is going.
Yeah.
He assembles this dream team to tackle a logistics challenge.
He brings them together to address a real-world logistics need. And they end up designing and building a new unmanned aerial system that's perfectly tailored to the unit's specific requirements.
That's a fantastic example.
That's a good one.
Of how investing in people and recognizing those unique talents can lead to innovative solutions.
Absolutely.
And those skills are honed through training and education, right?
That's right.
How does MCDP4 address preparing Marines
So
the complexities of logistics
dives into the importance of both training and education.
Okay.
So training is all about building those practical skills.
Okay.
Giving Marines hands-on experience with these systems and processes they'll be using in the field.
So realistic.
That's the idea.
Integrated training that prepares units for the challenges.
Train as you fight.
Of expeditionary logistics.
Yeah.
No more staging exercises.
Right.
With resources that wouldn't be available.
No more point.
In a real-world operation.
Rangers.
But it's not just about practical skills.
No.
Education is equally important.
That's right.
Providing a deeper understanding of the principles behind those processes.
How does it all fit together?
Right.
How does logistics impact strategic decision-making?
MCDP4 emphasizes
they stress
that this kind of education needs to be continuous.
Lifelong learning is key.
Throughout a Marine's career.
That's right.
Lifelong learning is key, especially in a field that's constantly evolving.
Farm
equipment plays a huge role in logistics, and I understand that MCDP4 delves into that as well.
They do.
What are some of the key takeaways?
The document stresses
when it comes to equipping the force for logistical success
that everything we field needs to be logistically sustainable. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of fielding
new vehicles, aircraft, and weapons systems, but we need to make sure
aircraft weapons system
that excitement is tempered with practicality.
But we need to make sure that
avoiding the shiny new toy syndrome
is tempered with
really thinking about the long-term logistical implications of the equipment we choose.
We can't afford to field systems that are so complex or maintenance heavy that they become logistical burdens.
Right.
We need equipment that's reliable, easy to maintain, and won't put an undue strain on our already stretched supply lines.
And being an expeditionary force, I'm guessing?
Right.
Everything needs to be readily transportable.
An expeditionary force.
Okay, cool.
We also need to think about...
The document actually raises a thought-provoking question.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. They ask, when does a middleweight force become a heavyweight?
That question, really.
Yeah, it really gets to the heart of the matter.
At the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
We've seen a trend towards heavier, more complex equipment, which is undoubtedly incredibly capable.
Here's towards heavier
with a significant, which is undoubtedly incredibly capable.
Logistical footprint.
But it comes with a significant logistical footprint.
Constant balancing act. Yeah. It's a constant balancing act.
Between capability and sustainability.
Yeah.
We need to be able to deploy that equipment rapidly.
Right.
And then have the means to sustain it.
That's right.
Once we're there.
Yeah.
MCDP4 emphasizes the importance of considering the spatial
maintenance, the information technology,
and the energy
requirements of all the equipment we field. Right.
Yeah, we need to be thinking about.
We need to be thinking about that full life cycle cost.
The full life cycle cost.
Not just the initial acquisition price.
It
being a naval force.
And, of course, being a naval force.
I'm guessing compatibility.
We also need to think of
with our naval partners is also a major consideration.
Compatibility with our naval partners.
That's right. That's absolutely critical. Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
A lot of our equipment will be transported by ship.
Yeah.
So we need systems that can be easily loaded, unloaded, and reconfigured.
Okay. Of course, we need to be mindful of the limitations.
And of course, we need to be mindful
of ship-based logistics.
Of the limitations of ship-based logistics.
Yes.
You know, we can't just assume
we'll have unlimited access to supplies and support once we're deployed.
We're deployed.
It all circles back to that idea of striking a balance between self-sufficiency and reliance on external support. Knowing when to pack light.
Knowing when to tack light.
And when to call in reinforcements.
Okay. Now, technology plays a huge role in modern logistics.
It does. And I know MCDP4 dedicates a good chunk of this chapter to discussing information systems.
They spend a good amount of time on it.
How does technology factor into the Marine Corps approach to logistics preparation.
Information systems are becoming increasingly vital to manage the complexity of modern logistics. They provide the connectivity, the data analysis, and the real-time visibility that's essential for effective decision-making.
It's like having a central nervous system.
Yeah, it's like a central nervous system.
For your entire logistics operation.
Yeah.
But MCDP4 also wisely points out...
But they also wisely point out...
that these systems can become potential targets.
These systems can become potential targets for adversaries.
For adversaries.
Cyber attacks.
Cyber attacks.
They'll disrupt our ability to communicate.
To communicate and coordinate.
Yeah, and coordinate.
Potentially crippling our logistics capabilities.
Our logistics capabilities.
So we need to make sure that those systems are secure.
Make sure those systems are
resilient and have built-in redundancy.
And have built-in redundancy.
No single point of failure.
No single point of failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to be able to operate.
We need to be able to operate.
Even if our primary systems are compromised.
Even if our primary systems are...
Right. And the last piece.
And then the last piece.
Of logistics preparation.
Yeah. That MCDP4 addresses.
That MCDP4 addresses is the process of getting forces.
Is the process of getting forces ready for deployment.
Ready for deployment.
It all comes down to that moment when the rubber meets the road.
It all comes down to that moment when the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
What are the key logistical considerations?
MCDP4. During this critical phase.
Discusses the force generation process.
Which is essentially a systematic approach to selecting, resourcing, and preparing units for deployment. It's about ensuring they have the personnel, the equipment,
the training and everything else.
The training.
They need to carry out their mission effectively.
And everything else they need to carry out their mission effectively.
Logistics is the backbone of force readiness.
Logistics is the backbone of...
making sure everything is in place.
Force readiness.
Before those Marines even set foot.
Making sure everything is
in place. Or aircraft.
What does that look like in practice?
On a ship or aircraft.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted process that involves everything from the timely delivery of equipment and supplies to setting up contracts, managing transportation assets, and conducting
realistic training that prepares units for the unique challenges they'll face.
It sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But MCDP4 emphasizes that we need to be training in environments.
That we need to be training
an environment
to closely mirror what we'll encounter.
In a real-world deployment.
No
more staging. Elaborate exercises.
No more staging.
With resources that wouldn't be available.
Elaborate exercises.
In a contested environment.
With resources that wouldn't be available in a contested environment.
Train as you fight.
Preparing
for the unexpected.
Now,
once everything's in place, it's time to deploy the force.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm guessing that brings its own set of logistical hurdles. Absolutely.
MCDP4.
Yeah. MCDP4 outlines the importance of strategic lift. Yeah.
Having the capacity to move. Yeah.
Large numbers of personnel and equipment. Quickly and efficiently. And that involves negotiating access agreement. Securing basing rights. Yeah. And coordinating with our partners and allies. It sounds like a complex operation.
With our partners and allies.
That requires careful planning and coordination.
And I imagine that having a resilient distribution system is more important than ever in a contested environment.
Having a resilient distribution system is more important than ever in a contested environment.
We need a system that can withstand disruptions and get the force to where it needs to be, even if things don't go according to plan. That can withstand disruptions.
And that includes...
And get the force to where it needs to be, even if things don't go according to plan.
Yeah, incorporating deception.
And that includes...
And signature management techniques.
Incorporating deception.
To make it harder for adversaries.
And signature management techniques.
Yeah.
To make it harder.
To track our movements and target our logistics assets.
For adversaries to...
So it's not just about moving things efficiently.
Track our movements and target our logistics assets.
It's about moving them.
Right. It's not just
about moving things efficiently.
Predictably.
It's about moving them discreetly and unpredictably.
It sounds like we've covered
right.
the entire spectrum.
It sounds like we've covered
of logistics preparation.
The entire spectrum.
From individual skills.
Logistics preparation.
To equipment selection.
From individual skills to equipment selection.
To deploying forces globally. I'm ready to move on to the next chapter.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, focuses on...
You're right on track.
The execution of all this planning.
Chapter 5 is all about putting those plans into action.
Okay.
Turning all that preparation into a well-oiled logistics machine.
So we've spent a good amount of time unpacking like the foundational elements of logistics.
Yeah.
From, defining its scope to understanding the Marine Corps guiding principles and the meticulous preparation involved.
Yeah.
But MCDP4 goes beyond theory, right? It delves into this crucial aspect of logistics execution.
It really does.
How do we turn all that planning and preparation?
So after 5, MCDP4
into effective action
is all about bridging that gap
okay.
between planning and execution.
Okay.
And they kick it off with a powerful quote from Rear Admiral Henry E. Eccles.
Okay. Perfectly captures this idea.
Okay.
He says, the essence of flexibility is in the mind of the commander.
Yeah. Okay.
The substance of flexibility is logistics.
That quote really highlights the symbiotic relationship between
it really does.
Leadership and logistics.
That's it. Yes.
It's not just about having a plan.
Right.
It's about having leaders
who can evaluate leaders
and make decisions and use logistics as a tool to achieve their objective.
Adapt, make decisions.
Right.
And use logistics as a tool to achieve
their objectives. Their objectives.
Exactly.
MCDP4 emphasizes.
And so MCDP4.
That effective logistics execution hinges on.
Emphasizes that.
Strong leadership at all levels.
Effective logistics execution hinges on.
We need leaders who can make those tough calls.
Strong leadership at all levels.
Yeah.
We need leaders who can
adjust to the ever-changing realities of the battlefield.
Make those tough calls.
And inspire their teams to overcome any obstacle.
Adjust to the ever-changing realities of the battlefield.
And of course, this requires a deep understanding of the principles and processes we've been discussing.
Inspire their teams to overcome any obstacle.
So it's not enough to just know the theory.
And of course, this requires a deep understanding.
Leaders need to be able to translate that knowledge into action on the ground.
Of the principles and processes we've been discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough to just...
MCDP4 actually uses a real-world example.
To illustrate.
Leaders need to be able to translate that knowledge.
When logistics execution goes wrong.
Into action on the ground.
Right.
MCDP4 analyzes Russia's logistical failures in the 2022 Ukraine invasion.
Yeah, highlighting.
Yeah, and they highlight how inadequate planning. Insufficient
resources. And the lack of adaptability.
Contributed to significant setbacks.
For the Russian force.
Russian forces.
It's a stark reminder.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder.
That neglecting logistics can have serious consequences.
That neglecting logistics can have.
Even for a powerful military.
Serious consequences. Even for a powerful military.
And MCDP4 goes beyond identifying failures.
Right. Yeah.
And he
provides a framework for successful logistics execution through command and control.
Through command and control.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the document emphasizes. Command and control. Provides the essential framework, guidance, and authority. For effective logistics operations.
It's about setting priorities. Establishing clear processes. And empowering leaders.
At all levels.
Yeah. To make informed decisions. So command and control.
Isn't just about
issuing orders. It's about understanding. The realities of the logistics system. That are logistically feasible.
And making decisions that are...
Exactly. And to break this down further...
Logistically feasible.
MCDP4 focuses on 3 key elements of command and control.
And to break this down further,
as they relate to logistics,
MCDP4 focuses on 3 key elements.
Priorities,
processes, and procedures.
As they relate to logistics.
And information technology systems.
Let's take a closer look.
Processes.
Yeah, at each of those.
And procedures.
Starting with priorities.
Yeah.
And how does command and control influence
information technology systems,
resource allocation in a logistics context?
Okay, let's take a closer look at each of those, starting with priorities.
Yeah.
So priorities are crucial because they dictate how limited resources are allocated.
Okay.
So in a situation where fuel or ammunition is scarce, for example, command and control determines who gets what and when. Those decisions need to be aligned with the overall mission objectives.
Yeah, ensuring that resources are used strategically to achieve the greatest impact. It's about making those tough choices.
Right.
And ensuring that logistics supports the most critical aspects of the mission.
Making those tough choices. And ensuring...
And then there are the processes and procedures.
That logistics supports the most critical aspects of the mission.
Yeah.
And then there are...
Which provide the essential rules of the road for the entire logistics system.
The processes and procedures which provide...
They establish how supplies are ordered.
The essential rules of the road.
How equipment is maintained.
Like for the entire logistics system.
How transportation assets are utilized. Think of it as like the standard operating procedures
they establish
that ensure that the logistics machine
how supplies are ordered,
runs smoothly and efficiently,
how equipment is maintained, how transportation assets are utilized. Think of it as the standard operating procedures.
It sounds like having those well-defined processes in place
that ensures
is crucial,
that the logistics machine runs smoothly and efficiently. It's
for preventing bottlenecks and ensuring that resources flow where they need to go.
Having those well-defined processes in place is crucial for,
and of course, we can't forget
preventing bottlenecks.
About the role of information technology.
And ensure
that resources flow where they need to go.
MCDP4 highlights how these systems are becoming increasingly important for effective logistics management.
And of course, we can't forget about the role of information technology.
Providing real-time data.
In modern logistics.
Tracking capabilities.
So MCDP4 highlights.
Communication tools.
How these systems...
It's like having a digital command center.
They're becoming increasingly important.
For your entire logistics operation.
For effective logistics management.
A document provides an example.
It's like having a digital command center. For your entire logistics operation.
Of a unit's ammunition supply dropping below.
The document provides an example.
A critical threshold triggering an automated alert. A unit's ammunition supply dropping below a critical threshold.
The system immediately notifies,
triggering an automated alert,
the relevant logistics officers
to the system,
who can then immediately resupply efforts quickly and efficiently.
The relevant logistics officers who can then coordinate.
It's a perfect example of how technology
supply effort
can streamline communication
quickly.
Enhance responsiveness
and efficiently,
and ensure that critical needs are met. How technology can streamline communication,
so it all happens.
Enhance responsiveness
in real time,
and ensure that critical needs are met in a timely manner.
Thanks to those advancements in information technology,
and it all happens in real time.
We've got a good grasp of how,
thanks to those advances,
strong leadership and effective command and control
in information technology
shape logistics execution.
So we've got, but none of this would be possible.
A good grasp of how,
without thorough planning,
strong leadership and effective command and control.
So how does MCDP4 approach the critical task of logistics planning?
Logistics execution, but none of this would be possible without.
MCDP4 emphasizes that
thorough planning.
Logistics planning is about anticipating future needs.
MCDP4 emphasizes that logistics planning is about
comprehensive solutions to meet those needs, no matter the situation.
Anticipating future needs. And developing comprehensive solutions
to
meet those needs no matter the situation.
That these plans
need to be tailored
to the specific conditions of each operation.
So we're not using a cookie-cutter approach.
Every operation requires.
Use the same logistics plan for a humanitarian aid mission.
Its own unique logistics plan.
As you would.
That's exactly.
For a major combat operation.
You wouldn't use the same logistics plan for a humanitarian aid mission.
And presents its own.
As you would for a major combat operation.
Unique set of challenges and opportunities.
Each scenario presents its own unique set of challenges and opportunities.
That need to be considered.
So what factors go into crafting a successful logistics plan?
What factors?
Where do we even begin?
Go into crafting a successful logistics plan.
MCDP4 emphasizes.
Where do we even begin?
The importance of conducting a thorough
intelligence preparation of the battle space.
The importance of conducting,
or IPB for short,
a thorough intelligence preparation of the battle space, or IPB.
This involves gathering and analyzing information on potential threats. Yeah, this involves logistical challenges and animal resources.
And analyzing information. It's about knowing the terrain.
On potential threats.
Understanding the enemy.
Logistical challenges.
And identifying
the available resources.
Both the opportunities and the constraints that will shape your logistics plan.
Knowing the terrain.
It sounds like a pretty comprehensive process.
Understanding the enemy.
MCDP4.
And
dicta framework.
Both the opportunities and the constraints.
Yeah, for this IPB process.
That will shape your logistics plan.
Right.
It's a pretty comprehensive process.
Okay.
Yeah. MCDP4.
They break it down into three key areas. The physical network and resources.
Let's start with threats.
And resources.
Okay.
Let's start.
It's about identifying
potential threats.
So this is about identifying potential threats.
Yeah, to our logistics systems. Both physical threats, like enemy attacks.
Both physical threats.
On supply lines.
Enemy attacks on supply lines.
And cyber threats. Targeting our communication networks. So it's not just about protecting.
Right. It's
physical assets.
Yeah, it's about protecting.
But also about safeguarding.
Physical assets. It's also about.
Yeah. The information and systems that enable.
Safeguarding the information and systems.
Logistics operations.
That enable those logistics operations. And it's not just about what the enemy.
About what the enemy might do.
We
also need to be mindful. Of how our own logistics activities might create vulnerabilities. If we're not careful, our logistics footprint could inadvertently reveal
vulnerabilities.
Sensitive information to the enemy.
Our logistics footprint could...
So it's a balancing act.
Inadvertently sensitive information to the enemy.
Ensuring that our logistics operations are effective.
Right.
Without compromising.
It's a balancing act between
operational security.
MCDP4 focuses on that our logistics operations are effective without compromising our operational security.
And the next area MCDP4 focuses on is the physical network.
And the next area
this encompasses all
MCDP4 focuses on
the infrastructure and transportation assets that support our logistics operations.
The physical network.
So this encompasses all the infrastructure and transportation assets that support our logistics operations.
Railroads, pipelines. It's about understanding capabilities and limitations of this network.
Railroads.
Pipelines.
Okay, so
it's about understanding
the capabilities and vulnerabilities in the system.
And limitations of this network.
A bridge that's not strong enough to handle heavy vehicles.
Identifying
a port that could be easily
blockaded potential bottlenecks or vulnerabilities in the system.
Yeah, could have a significant impact
like a bridge
on our ability to execute our logistics plans.
That's not strong enough.
Exactly. And that's why MCDP4
heavy vehicles
stresses the importance of developing alternative routes
that could be easily blockaded
and backup options
these factors could have
if our primary supply line is disrupted.
A significant impact on our ability.
We need to be able to pivot quickly and utilize
to execute our logistics plans.
Those alternative routes
exactly
to keep things flowing.
And that's why MCDP4
it's all about
building resilience into the system.
Of developing alternative routes
and backup options.
Potential disruptions.
If our primary supply line
and having those contingencies in place
is disrupted.
Okay.
We need to be able to pivot quickly and utilize
the resources.
Those alternative routes to keep things flowing.
That are available to us. Both our own organic logistics units.
It's all about building resilience into the system.
And potential support.
Anticipating potential disruptions.
From the joint logistics enterprise.
And having those contingencies in place.
Allies and partners.
And finally.
It's about knowing what we have to work with.
Yeah.
and making the most of it.
The resources
that are available to us.
That having real-time visibility of those resources is crucial.
Their organic logistics units.
In a dynamic environment.
And potential support from the joint logistics enterprise.
You're right.
Allies.
We need to know.
And partners.
Yeah, what's available, where it is, and how quickly we can access it.
It's about knowing what we have to work with.
That kind of global visibility.
And making the most of it.
Is essential for making informed decisions and adapting.
And I imagine that.
To changing circumstances, having real-time visibility of those resources.
Once we've got
it. Solid understanding.
Especially in a dynamic environment. Right, we need to know.
The threats, the resources available, we can start developing.
Then how quickly we can access it.
Those logistics plans.
That kind of global visibility.
What guidance does MCDP4 offer?
Is essential for making informed decisions.
For crafting effective plans.
The changing circumstances.
Okay.
Right.
MCDP4 stresses.
So, once we've got a solid understanding,
the
threats, the resources available,
logistically feasible,
we can start developing those logistics plans.
Options.
Okay. It's about having
plan A.
A plan B.
A, importance of developing multiple logistically feasible options.
And even a plan C. It's about having
a plan A.
Because in the real world, things rarely go exactly according to plan. And even a plan C.
We need to be prepared to adapt.
Because in the real world,
flexibility and adaptability
rarely go exactly according to plan.
And I'm guessing these
need to be prepared.
Need to be pretty comprehensive, covering all aspects of the logistics process.
So flexibility and adaptability are key.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to think about.
And I'm guessing these plans need to be
pretty comprehensive.
Sustainment dispositions.
All of these elements
need to be carefully considered.
They do. We need to think about
and integrated into the overall plan. And MCDP4 encourages the use of word ideas.
Needs to be carefully considered and integrated into the overall plan.
To test those plans and identify potential weaknesses before they become real-world problems.
MCDP4 encourages
putting those plans through their paces
of wargaming
and making sure they can withstand the uncertainties of a real-world operation.
And simulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to further enhance our chances of success.
Test those plans.
MCDP4 also introduces this concept.
Identify potential weaknesses.
Of logistics shaping actions.
Before they become real-world problems.
Logistics shaping actions.
It's about putting those plans through their paces. And making sure they can withstand the uncertainties.
These are actions we take
of a real-world operation.
Before a conflict even begins.
Well, exactly.
To set the stage for logistical success.
Further enhance
our
chances of success.
Pre-positioning supplies.
MCDP4.
Establishing
forward operating
bases. Or forging van.
Logistics shaping actions.
And strong relationships.
Logistics shaping actions.
With allies and partners.
What are those?
Yeah, to ensure access and support.
These are actions.
So it's about being proactive.
Taking ahead.
And creating a logistical advantage.
Even
before the fight even begins.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
To set the stage for logistical success.
MCDP4 provides a great example of a unit.
Pre-positioning supplies.
Yeah, pre-positioning caches.
Supplies.
And then using technology
to enhance
the visibility of those caches, making it easier for other units to locate.
And partners.
To ensure access and support.
It's a great example.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about being proactive.
Of how foresight and a little bit of preparation can pay
huge dividends.
Logistical advantage.
Before the fight even begins.
And to further... That's the idea.
Complicate things for the enemy. Yeah. MCDP4 emphasizes
the importance, a great example of
deception and signature management.
Pre-positioning caches of supplies.
Making it harder
and then
for adversaries to track our movements.
To enhance.
Anticipate our actions and target our logistics assets.
The visibility of those caches.
Making it easier for other units.
Using logistics
not
just some.
To support our operations.
Exactly.
But to shape...
It's a great example of how.
But battle space and gain a strategic advantage.
And a little bit of preparation can pay huge dividends down the road.
It's about being unpredictable. And staying one step ahead.
Complicate things for the enemy.
It sounds like we've covered the entire spectrum.
MCDP4 emphasizes the importance
of conducting a thorough deception. intelligence preparation of the battle space to crafting those detailed plans.
Making it harder for adversaries.
And taking those proactive shaping actions.
To track our movements.
But once the operation kicks off,
anticipate.
The plan is just a starting point, right?
Our action.
How does MCDP4 address...
target our logistics assets.
For adaptability and adjustments.
It's about using logistics, not just to support our operations.
No plan survives. First contact with the enemy, completely intact.
To shape the battle space.
That's why MCDP4 dedicates a significant portion.
It's gain a strategic advantage.
Yeah.
It's about being unpredictable.
To discussing the importance of logistics visibility.
And staying one step ahead.
And adjustments.
Right, it sounds like.
So what exactly does logistics visibility mean in this context?
We've covered the entire spectrum of logistics planning, from conducting a thorough intelligence preparation of the battle space to crafting.
Having real-time awareness of what's happening
with these detailed plans and taking
our logistics systems,
proactive,
knowing where our supplies are, how much fuel we have.
But once the operation kicks off,
the maintenance status of our equipment.
The plan is just a starting point, right?
The location and status of our personnel.
No plan survived.
It's about being able to...
First contact with the enemy.
Track the flow of resources and identify...
Completely intact.
Potential bottlenecks or disruptions before...
That's why MCDP4.
They become critical problems.
Sounds like
a significant portion.
Discussing the importance.
That real-time information visibility for making informed decisions on the fly.
And adjustments.
But how do we achieve that level of visibility?
Right. So what exactly does logistics visibility?
In a complex and dynamic environment?
In this
MCDP4 stresses the importance.
It's about having
real-time awareness of
data collection and analysis.
What's happening?
We need to make sure
within our logistics systems.
Yeah, we're gathering the right information and that it's reliable.
Knowing where our supplies are.
Here's how much fuel
needs to be shared effectively throughout the chain of command.
The maintenance status of our
tactical level.
The location and status up to the strategic level.
It's about being able to track the flow of resources.
That everyone has a clear and shared understanding of potential bottlenecks.